Well, I hope you, like we did, had a great Christmas. We had a great time as family, had people over on Christmas Day, and afterwards we had the chance to get away for a couple days. Julie and the kids and I went up to Jekyll Island. As you know, we're still learning Florida and Georgia, so it's fun to kind of see some new things. And of course, it was beautiful and enjoy time with family. And we were on the beach one day, and kind of just kids playing in the sand, walking along the rocks, and there was a mom with her kids there. And Julie got into a conversation with her, and they just kind of started talking, and it came about that she was a professed believer. And so we started talking more just about Christ, and she has 3 brothers who are all pastors in churches. And then I just asked the question, where do you go to church? They live in Tennessee, just out of curiosity of their church life. She said, well, we don't go to church right now. And that's a very common statement in talking to people today, that they have a relationship with God and they seem to be Christians, but they don't go to church, whether it's unimportant. But then she went on to say, and I wasn't quite expecting this, she said, my husband and I are reevaluating church about what is a biblical church. And she didn't mean that critically. I think she actually meant it with good intention, that she had been to so many churches throughout her life. And she goes, I no longer see Christ in the church. I no longer understand why churches even do what they do. And she knew I was a pastor at this point, and she said, no offense, but it seems like many men are in the ministry simply to have a job. I didn't take any offense to that. I understood what she was saying. And sadly, I had to sympathize with her. How many churches are directionless? How many pastors live with no sense of what is the church actually about? How many are in leadership in the church without any understanding besides what the church was about? And her main critique seems today that all churches are about is growing bigger numbers and marketing and games. Paul understood that temptation. That danger is not new to the church. Titus 1:5 is very clear. This is why I left you in Crete, so that you might put what remained into order. God's clear design for what a church should look like. And the core component of that, and appoint elders in every town as I directed you, men to carry out not their plan, but my plan for the church. And then immediately he dives into, this is the type of men that are to lead the church. Men that understand their calling, men that are biblically qualified. There's the sense where Paul is saying to Titus, if you find the right type of man, he will rightly carry out God's plan for the church. There's not meant to be confusion for the church, and there's not meant to be confusion with the priorities and characteristics that are to encompass one's life in leading the church. God has been very clear. We've seen that God has high standards, that God expects that elders are above reproach, not perfect, but blameless in their pursuit of God, that they're to be the husband of one wife, that they're to have children that are faithful in the home. And he goes on in verse 7 and he gives a list of negative characteristics of things that elders must not possess, character traits that should not be in their lives. It says, must not be arrogant, quick-tempered, a drunkard, violent, or greedy for gain. And then Paul transitions here. Contrast, but he uses the strongest contrasting conjunction there is in the Greek language. Not like this, but they are to be like this. Hospitable, a lover of good, self-controlled, upright, holy, and disciplined.